Okay, now we're at time. I'm going to kickstart the meeting. Good morning to all of our colleagues in the US and good afternoon to our colleagues in the UK and Europe. My name is Gemma Pritchard-Smith and I work in the Origin team alongside Charlotte Horton, and I'll be hosting this session over the next hour. Thank you all very much for joining today. I'm going to start by just setting some expectations for the session. The Origin team is focused on working with you across groups to identify creative solutions to our business critical challenges. You can't turn on the TV, radio, or listen to a podcast without hearing about the world's talent challenges. It seems that everywhere we look, market experts are highlighting the challenges we face, not only today, but for a long time to come. McKinsey reports that if the market continues the trajectory it's on today, they predict that within the next 8 years, 2/3 of the workforce could be lacking in basic digital skills, while more than 10 million people in the UK alone could be underskilled in leadership, communication, and decision making. Despite the gloomy picture painted, the fundamental shift in the skill set required for the future are an opportunity as well as a threat. If we and our clients proactively adopt talent strategies that tackle the challenges head on, we can gain a distinctive competitive advantage and improve our resilience in a fast changing world. But not only do we need to focus on identifying the talent for our open opportunities, but retaining the talent we have today and developing their skills for the future. According to research conducted by Pearson, where there were surveyed 6,000 women across the globe, 90% are looking to change their job over the next 12 months, half of which said that they were already getting their CVs ready and had commenced their search. In the UK alone, a report from Westfield Health showed 16 million workers are planning to change their job in the next 6 months, more than half of which say their mental health is driving them to make the change. Our research shows us that there are 5 key talent strategies that we must equally consider in order to overcome today's challenges and set ourselves up to master the future talent landscape. They are to invest in training, expand our search beyond geographical restrictions such as remote working and offshoring, consider apprenticeships and similar government schemes, rethink the workforce needs through strategic workforce planning and consulting with our clients to open up new pools of talent, and seek creative ways to retain and mobilise our top talent. In a recent Origin poll, we asked you which of the 5 identified candidate strategies were you most interested in exploring, following which we engaged with several specialists whom have created talent solutions for today's problems. Of those, we've selected 4 to present to you today. Over the next 55 minutes or so, we shall see 3 short presentations, some of which may include a demonstration showcasing the solutions which could enable us to upskill, reskill, and develop new and existing hires, mobilise our talent, identify talent gaps easily, and map our workforce to opportunities based on transferable skills, experience, and strengths. Rethink the workforce need, consult with our clients, and engage with new talent. The focus today is to introduce you to several innovators that can inspire us to look at our challenges differently, whilst offering us a potential solution to our problem. Given the time we have together and the number of colleagues on the call, there won't be time for questions during this session, and I'd ask for you all to remain on mute throughout. That said, I'll make a note should you want to put any of your questions into the chat function of this session, and then I will share all of the answers back with you and the rest of the group after the session. And if you'd like to know more following today's session about one or more of the suppliers, just reach out to me directly and I'll schedule a follow-up. Before I hand over to the solution providers, I want to share the following feedback link with you all. Can I please ask that you either scan the QR code or pop the URL into your browser now to access the feedback tool. You'll have access to 3 feedback questions that we would appreciate your thoughts on before you leave today's session. This is an interactive poll which I'll be sharing the results of at the end of the session. So if you're curious to see the collective feedback, in addition to hearing from today's industry experts, it's worth sticking around to the end. Without further ado, I will hand over to our first presenter. I'll just go in. Hello, Michael. So our first presenter is Michael Bone from SkillSize, and let me just give you access, Michael. Just give me a second.
No worries, thank you.
Just let me find you in the list. There you are. Sorry, I seem to have lost my button to give you access. Just give me a second.
No worries.
You should be able to just stop sharing. I think then Michael might be able to take control.
Yeah, I should be able to just start sharing.
Yeah,
now.
if you just take the little share tray, Michael.
Yeah, so I'll be going straight to the demo. I'll just give a bit of context beforehand. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Boham. Thanks for having me on today's session. I'm one of 3 founders of SkillSize. And with SkillSize, we've built this. It's an AI-driven skills mapping platform that allows really anybody, it could be a person, it could be a recruiter, it could be a company, to activate the existing talent network by providing unique expertise intelligence and allowing the ability to swiftly map the right people to the right projects, jobs, and opportunities at scale. We serve a number of recruitment firms, and what we're providing is a more smarter alternative to the existing CRMs. And we also work with a number of consulting firms, these highly project-centric environments, where we're enabling them answer a range of different questions, such as what are our core strengths and gaps, what areas do we need to be prioritizing recruitment and channeling our L&D efforts, and also who are the right people for the right projects we have today at our desk. So I'm going to be walking you through a quick demo of the platform, and I'll be showing you how we can quickly build a profile of an individual without minimum manual intervention, how we can swiftly match people against job specs or project brief of any sort, anonymize the information so you're completely removing any bias in the assessment and selection process, and how you can gain a globalized expertise intelligence view of all your network. So I'm just going to share my screen and let me know once you can see something. Okay, can you see my screen?
We can see.
Brilliant. So with SkillSize, we started this out by building a unique NLP engine, and what we're doing is we convert any kind of descriptor about your experience or background. It could be your CVs, it could be your LinkedIn profile, or any kind of summary whatsoever. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to show you how quickly it is to create a profile of an individual. So I've just uploaded one of my regular CVs. And the way it works is, without having to, in typical CRMs, you upload a CV, then you typically requires a consultant to add some metadata around that particular person's profile and some tags, but SkillSize does that automatically. So I'm going to select OK. And what it's done, it's created an automatic SkillSize profile. And what it does, it's AI generated a bio that speaks to some core elements of my background, including capabilities, top skills, manners of problem solving, tools and technologies, typical groups of people I tend to work with, and it's able to extract my key highlights, all from analyzing the contents of my background. It goes into a layer of depth here by calling out my core strengths in a number of different areas, a bit of a heat map of my skills where it's derived and analyzed my core applied skills on the basis of context, period of time in which those skills have been applied, but also how frequently those skills have been applied across a range, a spectrum across my career. It's able to infer high-level capabilities, sort of my transferable skills across a number of different segments, not necessarily related to my current technical abilities, but also leveraging the same knowledge to apply and analyze and derive a set of core competencies or soft skills, if you will, and also my cognitive diversity, areas in which my typical style and strengths in which I leverage to solve complex problems within the organizational setting. As I skip through various different CVs and profiles, you can see how that information changes and how that can be dynamically generated by simply uploading that initial piece of information. So that's the first part that SkillSize offers, a unique and swift ability to create profiles of individuals based on the information you have. Now, the core element is, right, I've got all these profiles, but how do I match people against any opportunity I have on my desk swiftly without having to run a Boolean search, as an example? So here is an example of a job spec on Even Out Your Careers, and this could be a project brief as well. And this includes a descriptor of the type of person they're looking for, programming languages, technical jargon, various bits and pieces that you'd have to dissect, prioritize, and then do a Boolean search or engage your network to try and find out the best fit. But with skill size, simply copy any amount of the text you're looking for. Let's copy the spec as you have it there, paste it in this view over here, press enter, and in real time it converts that spec into technical skills it's found in that job spec. Also transferable adjacent skills to identify people that don't necessarily have those direct skills but are capable of that opportunity, soft skills, and elements of our psychometric model as well. If I go to match, I've gone from instantly a project brief or job spec to the top people within my network that best suit that particular role opportunity. If I go to the detail, I can see the matched skills and missing skills, and also how well that person can adapt into new scenarios, where if you don't have the relevant skill sets and they have a high level of adaptability, that allows you and gives you the relevant decision processes and data points to decide if they would be good fit, they'd be a good fit for that role, given a certain level of training and development. And what it's doing right there is looking for various different signals across your background, such as a number of different industry verticals you work for, different projects and different skills applied at different points, to give you a credible measure as to if that person can adapt into a new unique scenario. By clicking on the insights button over here, you can immediately see what your kind of expertise breakdown looks like across the entire network to see how you measure against that particular job spec, which gives you a view as to demand and areas in which you may need to plug the gaps in by recruitment or L&D to kind of bolster up those areas, and also areas of strength which can support your business development activities. So that's the first way of matching against individuals within your network. It's simply by pasting a job spec. Naturally, you can simply type in the skills as you have them here, and you highlight various different parts of that, but that's just an easy way of doing it. Another way of matching against various different individuals is this feature we have called mirroring. So if you simply don't have a job spec, or you don't have a brief as to the person you're looking for, you can simply clone an individual's strengths and find the next best person within your network that can fill in that person's role, given their background and capability. So as you'd expect, there's one person did 100% against themselves, as you'd expect, but a software engineer is the next best match against that front-end developer. And you can see the detail as to why they're a good match as a replacement of that person's background and capability. So those are the various different ways you can analyze a person's skill sets and match based on various different paths through getting to that particular area. The last point I want to show you is bringing all that information together into one view so you can start to see what your expertise distribution looks like across the entire network. So give that a few seconds to load. So there's 124 people within this particular account. Our AI has picked up 36 unique skills clusters, which I'll come to in a second. And this metric here really reflects how T-shaped this particular organization is by measuring the level of versatility and specialism of core skills across this particular network. Core competencies and meta competencies distribution, top tools and technologies used and utilized. And this is where it starts to create a view as to the top skills across the entire network versus demand. So you can start to see a bit of a strength profile across the entire organization. And then this is a separate view that provides a similar output, but then albeit displaying where your concentration of credibility lies. So I can start to see that I've got a lot of expertise in cloud computing, software development. I can quickly identify the relevant people within that network by simply clicking on that button and going to their profiles as you saw from the initial process. And that's essentially how skill size works. Just a last piece of functionality to demonstrate. One feature that's very popular with some of our larger organizations is this feature called blind mode. As you saw at the beginning, there's no profile pictures in any of the profiles, and that's by design because we want to minimize any bias in the assessment and selection process. We've also created the ability to completely cloak the person's name by either an alphanumeric code and employee ID, but in this instance, the person's initials, to really go a long way in reducing any bias whatsoever in that initial standpoint. We are working on a number of other unique features as well. We've ingested thousands and thousands of CVs from a number of our clients using the platform right now, from recruiters to consulting firms. And this allows us to harbor a rich set of data points behind this, which allows us to provide benchmark functionality, where we can benchmark organizations as a whole, their expertise profile against similar organizations, but also at the individual level, what does a product manager's skill base look like in reference to a candidate you're currently looking at relative to the data set that sits behind our engine. And that's a very quick run through of skill size. At this point, I typically open the door to questions, but I believe that's not part of the process. So I guess thank you very much.
If there are some specific questions that people wanted to ask now, we do have a 5-minute window, so we could open it up for skill size. If not, and people want to reflect equally, that's fine. I'm happy to collect questions later on. That's not a problem.
Can I ask a quick question? It's Becky from Tate.
Of course. Go ahead.
And thank you, Michael. That's a really good presentation and really impressive. My question would be around the types of roles this best suits, because the example you gave was very technical and specialist. I do lots of CV webinars and our space is more office related. I can't see it working as effectively there just because of the broad range of skills. That's not to say it wouldn't, but also when you say about uploading a CV, it very much depends on, I guess, the quality of the content within that CV, because not everyone's great at writing them. So they might not include as much information as they're capable of. Has that been given? I mean, your clientele, is it generally more tech or specialist types of organisations that would use your product?
Hello, thanks for the initial comments. Good question. So to answer the first question, we have a very broad taxonomy that sits behind this. Admittedly, we did start this in the city-based sector of looking at financial services and technology, but we have casted the net across industries. We do have a large client operating in the blue-collar space. So as you can imagine, it's a complete different ball game when it comes to the relevant types of skills that we're reflecting in this. And we do have a big depth of coverage of those particular skill sets. So I'm confident that that will translate to your particular world. With regards to the quality of CVs, absolutely, it's a problem that most platforms that operate in a similar way will have to face. But what we try to evade that is we have a capability model that suggests and infers skills on the basis of the context that we can find in their CV, which allows it to suggest skills that they may not have necessarily indicated, but we know that they definitely would have applied by being a certain role, by having worked in a certain title or having been exposed to certain types of work. On the flip side, the question of validity, if someone says I'm a project manager, is that simply the gospel? We've got a kind of a capability, a context analysis model that allows us to look beyond just a simple mention of a keyword. It looks at the context through which that keyword has been referenced. Did you manage any project plans? What was the size of the team in which you were involved in that project? What was your responsibility? What method of delivery? Was agile, waterfall? We're looking at a range of different collection of contextual points, which allows us to add more weighting to that particular skill as a project manager. So if I went to the profile, as you remember, there's varying different size of tags, and all of that information of context is what is used to bolster the size of the tag.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining that.
No worries.
Is there anyone else? We've probably got a couple of more minutes if anyone wanted to fire a quick question over. No? Okay, in which case then we'll say thank you, Michael, for joining today and for that quick yet detailed overview of your tool. It was great to see that. And I'll follow up with you after this.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you all.
Thanks, Michael. Bye. Okay, next up, I'm going to hand over to Charlotte. Charlotte's going to walk us through Multiverse. Over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you. I've got a hard act to follow, and sorry, it's a face you're probably all familiar with, so not quite as exciting. I'm just going to share my screen, and then I will open up. So, get that up. Okay, brilliant. So I'm here to talk to you about Multiverse. So I'm wearing a Multiverse hat today. I hope I'm going to do them justice because they're doing some brilliant stuff. I actually work as a mentor for Multiverse outside of work. So I mentor on their apprenticeship program. So there is a connection there. And I am quite close to the business in terms of what they're doing. And we want to talk to you about Multiverse and their approach to the skills challenge. And yes, it is apprenticeships, which lots of you will have seen before, but I think they've taken quite a differentiated stand and approach to what they're doing. So I wanted to bring that to life, both in terms of the stuff they're doing in the UK today, and they're also launching in North America, so relevant for any colleagues that are over in that part of the world. So just a really quick intro. The way I'm going to structure this, because I'm not actually a core Multiverse employee, is I'm going to give you a high level overview of what they're doing and the problem they're trying to solve. And then I'm going to share a video which has Ewan Blair and Sophie Ruddock, who are the two CEOs and founders, talking a little bit more in detail about what they're doing both in the UK and in the North American market. So essentially, this first slide really kind of articulates what they're doing. They're building an alternative to college and university and to corporate training via professional apprenticeships. So they were founded in 2016 and they've grown really, really rapidly. They started in the UK, and then in this year they launched in 2021, and they've actually had the biggest amount of funding that any ed tech business has had. So they've broken quite a lot of records and they've had quite a lot of airtime. So some of you may well have seen them on LinkedIn and or on the news. And as the statement says, they believe that, I guess, they're a mission-driven tech business. So they're actively looking to dispel the myths around apprenticeships and the kind of preconceptions that previously people held. But what they're focusing specifically on is addressing the current and future skills gap in relation to the fact that most organisations are now having to become technology or digitally enabled. So the core offerings are around digital and tech skills. And that's everything from digital marketing right through to software engineering. And they've got quite a big focus on data. So their data programs, actually typically a program with Multiverse will last 13 to 15 months. But their data programs that they're kind of building out, there is one that takes you all the way up to a kind of data science degree level, which is 3 to 4 years. So it's a lot longer. And then it's also on the business skills side, because they recognise the project management side of things and the business associates and the people leadership skills are becoming more and more important. And they deliver their training through partners, some of those that you will have heard of: General Assembly, Mind Gym, CMI, APM, but they've also built out an extensive team of people that are delivering this themselves. So they're focusing specifically on the future skills. The three kind of core components, and then one of the reasons I think they're differentiated in terms of their approach, is that yes, they focus on training, yes, they focus on work, but they also put a lot of emphasis into community. And that really differentiates them in the sense that typically when people used to go to university or still do go to university, you would build that social capital and that network, which is something that you can miss in an apprenticeship program. So they spend a lot of time building out these communities where you will do events that have been running virtually, obviously, over the last couple of years. They'll have kind of really key speakers that will come in and talk to people about key content matters. You get access to partner programs that are run by Blinkist and Pelego. I don't know whether you've seen either of those, but they are digital tools for essentially kind of a digital library as Pelego's capabilities. So you can get access to any kind of textbook and or fiction book, which will give you the skills and knowledge that you need in order to be able to develop. And then the Blinkist is really a kind of a condensed version of literature and fiction and non-fiction that you can take in kind of bite-sized mouthfuls to upskill yourselves. So they're taking a very kind of partnered approach. They're focusing absolutely on community. And they're focusing on, I guess, reinventing the apprenticeship. And I know some people on this call have had experience and exposure both in kind of running apprenticeship programs, but my experience of working with Multiverse has really been quite different. They've partnered with leading organisations and done really well with the employers that they've been able to start working with. The thing that really stands out to me on this is that there are a lot of company names here that are our customers. So we need to be cognizant that our customers are launching academies with Multiverse. Group M recently launched a digital marketing academy where they're hiring 90 digital marketeers through Multiverse over the next few months. They've also been able to work really specifically with customers on like very key challenges that they've had. So KPMG have a program that they run called It's Her Future, and It's Her Future is there to kind of upskill and develop high potential females that they have in the business. Multiverse have come in to be able to give everybody a level of kind of data literacy and data fluency, because those are the skills that they believe the organisation will need for the future. So they're partnering with lead organisations, not just to get in that kind of what we would all think of as typical apprenticeship talent in that 18 to 26-year-old bracket, but also on solving real customer problems around how they upskill in terms of digital transformation, technology changes that people need to be aware of. the other thing that they're doing, which is really interesting, is that they've been working with mums, so returners to work and veteran programs. So it's really extensive in terms of how they've been partnering, and they've been able to get a really good customer list. When they went live in North America this year, they've partnered with Verizon, Microsoft, Alphabet, just a few, again, big names that are kind of really being able to lead the way in this new digital transformation space. I guess the two big kind of key levers that they are using to talk to employers about at the moment, and I kind of touch on these because I know that they, aside from skills, are areas that we talk about in our business as well, is in the kind of 18 to 26-year-old camp, where they're positioning this as an alternative to university. They've won some awards for some really good campaign work that they've done in order to be able to reach diverse talent, and they've got lots and lots of data that they can share, and a lot of it is on their website, which we'll share with you after this, which shows how those how DE&I is not just a factor of how they're building their business, but how they're able to then report on it in terms of the candidates that they're bringing to the platform. So 53% are from ethnic minority backgrounds, 52% are women, and then 36% of people are meeting the indicators of socioeconomic disadvantage. So those are people that typically wouldn't have gone to university. And then in the skilled professional cohort, because whilst Multiverse does span, I guess, anybody in across whatever age, there are those very two specific segments that are focusing on that younger generation and then the upskilling. Where they're really kind of getting traction with customers here is around improving employee retention. So 88% of apprentices are then staying with their employers, and typically, as I said at the beginning of this, an apprenticeship program through Multiverse is about 13 to 15 months long. So in terms of, why is it interesting our customers, it's solving three problems. It's helping people upskill and get ready for the future. It's helping people focus on DE&I, and it's also helping people with retention. And why should we care? I think it's really important that we know who our customers are buying with and who they're spending money with. I think it's an opportunity for us to think about how we might collaborate with Multiverse in a more detailed way. They've got some brilliant alumni programs that we could learn a lot from. And I'm going to jump into a video now, just so instead of hearing me speak about it from a third-hand perspective, you can hear you and Sophie talk a little bit about what they're doing in a more articulate way.
Shall we talk about the worker shortage hitting the tech industry, as the skills gap does make it ever more difficult to find qualified workers? But ed tech company Multiverse is hoping to change that by partnering with names like Google and Microsoft to train candidates. Joining me now, John Thompson is chairman of the board of Microsoft and an angel investor in Multiverse, and Ewan Blair is founder and CEO of Multiverse. Ewan, what is Multiverse? It sounds fun.
So we're building an outstanding alternative to college and to corporate training through professional apprenticeships. And they're focused on tech, digital, and professional services careers. And we place those choosing not to go to college into apprenticeships with great companies like Google, Morgan Stanley, Facebook, ClassPass. And we also reskill people already in employment in things like data analytics, project management, and software engineering.
John, how acute is this problem? Is Microsoft among the other tech giants experiencing it?
Well, the whole notion of talent availability in tech is acute. Make no mistake about that. And Microsoft and every other industry, or every other company in the industry, is impacted by that. However, I think if you were to think back 4 or 5 years ago, there was a notion that said every company would become a tech company. And therefore, every company would have to build the right talent pool in order to take advantage of what tech can do to move those companies along. And that's only become exacerbated by the last, let's say, 12 to 24 months for sure. I think a related problem is the growing cost of, quite frankly, getting a graduate or an undergraduate degree. Mm-hmm. The whole notion of debt being created for college degrees is exponentially beyond where it was when I went to college 50 years ago. So it's just a huge, huge problem. And having something like Multiverse that allows companies to invest in talent and them not have to worry about whether or not they are debt constrained when they're done with that, that's a huge, huge process problem that should improve the outcome for all companies around the world.
So Ewan, this is open to people 18 to 26 years old with a high school diploma who do not have a bachelor's degree. You get to fill out a profile of your skills and interests, get matched with an apprenticeship. Over a 15-month period, you work 9 to 5, you get paid for it. It's free. Like I said, you earn the salary. Multiverse doesn't. What is the catch? You just hand me a job. What is this, like, like one of those BuzzFeed quizzes?
There is no catch.
Yeah.
This is the great thing about it. It's such a slam dunk.
How do you make
get all
money?
The support, the salary. So we charge employers, and it's right that employers pay for this because they need access to those skills, but also they need access to different types of talent. There is no more pressing issue for corporate America right now than creating a workforce that reflects the diversity of the country.
Yeah.
And you cannot address that shortfall through college. Dropouts are high, it's hugely expensive, as John alluded to, and degree requirements are screening out 2/3 of Black Americans and 79% of Hispanic Americans.
Yeah.
So we've got a real issue if we don't address it.
Hi there, I'm Dom. I'm the co-founder at Stay Nimble, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to be with you live today, but we proactively recorded this due to some COVID situations that are going on in the household with me at the moment, which meant that I probably won't be available to do this live. So I wanted to spend about 10-15 minutes just talking about the importance of career coaching in the war for talent. And so it's important to always start at the beginning of any of these conversations by talking about what it is that I mean, or anyone means by the war for talent. So the war for talent is really about that kind of increasingly competitive landscape for recruitment and retention of talented employees. And talent, in this instance, the way that I'm defining it is a really rounded view of people's capabilities through their strategy, through their emotional maturity, through their communication skills, all the way through to the functional skills that employers are often looking for. But it's always a blend of these things together, because we know that employee development is an ongoing thing that allows people to be able to learn new skills on the job, as long as employers embrace that concept. Now, some of the things that we've been seeing over the course of the last year have really been accelerated because of COVID. So if we take, for example, hybrid working, we were already on a trajectory of thinking about how the workplace is changing and where the place of work is taking place. And so, really, over the course of the last 18 months, through necessity, as always, comes a whole bunch of innovations and speed to move towards new types of adaptations to be able to continue to work. And so, while there's obviously a large amount of work that can't be done remotely or from outside of an office area or outside of a warehouse or outside of a shop, there's obviously huge amounts of work, particularly in the knowledge economy, that can be completed and really productively worked through from home or wherever you might be. And so that's increasingly becoming a requirement that people are thinking about, particularly if they have the experience of working from home over the course of the last 18 months. Alongside that, of course, is this kind of movement which was already there, which was people really contemplating quite deeply about what work is for. And while this isn't necessarily something you'll see in every single candidate that you'll see come walking through the door, over the course of the last 10 years, this idea of purposeful work has become much more prevalent as people think about how they're spending their time and wanting to make sure that the things that they do have meaning and mean something to them. Those two things together, this idea of hybrid working and purposeful work, are putting huge amounts of pressure under retention. And you've seen this with the idea of the great resignation, where people are contemplating after the last 18 months, what is it I'm doing with my life? What else can I be doing to both pay the bills, but also make sure that the time that I'm spending doing this work is means something to me, and gives me the opportunities to be able to be as productive as possible, but without any of the things that go with some of those previous working environments, whereby you maybe are being distracted all the time by co-workers or the commute, or indeed that you do want to be back in the office at some points in order to really collaborate and socialize with your teammates. So these are real challenges that employers are facing, and the ways in which employers need to start thinking about this, and the way that certainly the Impelling Group are already doing lots of work in this area to try and help employers to recognise how they can best compete in the war for talent, is to really think about how to mobilise candidates into new types of roles. And what we've seen is that when you put career development and redeployment programmes together, they can make a real difference in trying to build that talent pool of that A-player talent. So the sorts of things that we're seeing for organisations that are succeeding in this space is a real emphasis on trying to think about reskilling. So if you take Unilever, for example, really clear example of how they're trying to move people throughout their organisations, putting them into short project-based secondments into different parts of the businesses to help them learn and experience new parts of the types of roles that they could be interested in doing in the future, and helping them to develop skills, develop networks, and parts of awareness of parts of the organisation they're not seen before. Now, obviously, a lot of organisations don't spend that much time and money on employee development. It's one of the key areas. Lots of things happening around kind of wellbeing programs and employee engagement and all those pieces. But fundamentally, what we've seen over the course of the last 10 or 15 years is a steady decline in the amount of money and resource that organisations are putting into helping people learn new skills, which of course is putting massive pressure on the economy generally, because what that means is that when people do leave those employers because they're not getting the development they need, they don't have all of the skills that other employers are looking for. And so we have this kind of ongoing degradation of skills that are needed within organisations to be able to help them perform and succeed in the things that they're doing. So more reskilling and seeing more of that would be really helpful in terms of helping mobilize candidates into new types of roles, both within organizations and out of organizations. One of the things that can make a big difference here is helping people to identify what's important to them, identify their values, their strengths and their skills, and helping them on a pathway towards new types of roles that really fulfill them and also meet the requirements of organizations. And the way that you do that is through really effective career development coaching. So, we're quite used to this idea of kind of executive coaching, which generally is kind of focused on kind of problem management, issue resolution, trying to bring, the best executives to the table and having them succeed at what they're doing. And what we really need to see now, what we're beginning to see, if you take the likes of BetterUp, for example, is a really interesting example of a platform that's providing coaching at an organizational level, trying to democratize that and make that accessible to as many people as possible across businesses, gives people the ability to be able to plot trajectories within their organizations to be able to move into new types of roles. And this isn't just about kind of picking up a senior role and putting them with a mentor, and mentoring them through the process of how to work within PwC or whatever. It's not just about that. This is actually about fundamentally understanding your needs and your expectations of what work can be for you and making sure that you're supported in trying to achieve that. And that's a real distinct difference between kind of professional career coaching and people within organizations who are buddied up with someone to help them progress specifically in the hierarchies that are set up within those businesses. And the last thing just to mention as well that we're seeing is much more focus on this idea around strengths-based recruitment. So not just focusing on skills, but also the kind of inherent talent that people have in different areas like creativity and problem solving, for example. Because what employers are beginning to realize is that lots of skills can be learned on the job. And what they want to have is making sure they've got access to lots of talented people who can learn things quickly and help them to be able to move forward. Now, obviously, you need a bit of domain knowledge within organizations to be able to make this approach work. You can't just stick people in who've never done particular types of skills before in the past and expect them to thrive without a lot of hand-holding. But increasingly, the way to try and think about how to untap these talent pools and mobilizing candidates into new types of roles is to really start getting this blended approach between strengths, skills, and values. And so one of the things that can help with this is building technologies that bring together all of the things that you need to be able to identify your strengths, figure out what you can learn, what interests you have, the types of places where you can go to learn new skills, and try to find ways of being able to then match that into new types of work within the environment, whether that's in total job market or indeed within organizations themselves. And when you blend all of that technology, those tools together with the support from qualified professionals in career development, it really begins to untap the potential for people. It means that people don't get lost. It means they stay motivated. It means that they stay accountable to being able to move forward with their development. Otherwise, what you have is a lot of inertia. You've got to be incredibly motivated and have a lot of self-motivation to be able to move, particularly through transitionary types of changes within your life, because let's face it, change is pretty overwhelming, and changing jobs and whole careers is incredibly overwhelming. So what have we been doing at Stay Nimble? So we're a social enterprise in the UK, and really taking this idea of tech for good, which is technology that's pointed towards solving intractable social issues, alongside delivering value for society through business for good principles. So we really distribute 51% of our profits to help solve the challenge of disadvantaged people in society accessing these types of services. And everything we're doing is kind of baked around the 4 UN Sustainable Development Goals you can see on the screen. And so our mission is to support everyone to find their purpose in the new world of work. And we do this through providing this technology platform that connects people with expertise, content, and relevant programs that will help them to move from A to B. Whether that's starting from a perspective of I have no idea what I want to do next, through to I know exactly what I want to do, but I have no idea how to get there. So over the course of the last 4 years, we've been steadily growing. We'll probably reach somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people towards the end of this year that's currently on the platform. And we support them with both, access to all the tools and also time with a qualified professional coach. And if you check out our Trustpilot page, you'll be able to see the sorts of things that people say about the support that they've had from us. And so, it's really important that these experiences demonstrate the value of working with a qualified professional and the experience of getting, access to those individuals through the technology that we've made available. Over the course of the last few years, we've been recognised across industry for different types of awards relating to the use of technology in career development, all the way through to impact and the use of tools to be able to and technology to be able to create value for individuals who are more disadvantaged in society. The way that we do this is that platform brings together all this type of expertise. So we have registered professionals from the CDI, the Career Development Institute, which is the leading body for ensuring quality in career development in the UK, alongside a whole swathe of other types of data sources that help us to understand how labour markets are changing and what might work specifically well for people. Alongside that, of course, once we've identified kind of career pathways, if there are skills gaps in place, we work with a series of different skills providers to be able to point them to provision that helps people to be able to learn new skills that will help them move into new types of roles. And, you know, the way that we think about Stay Nimble is it's essentially a platform that can deliver a series of different types of programs. So our 3 ways of doing that currently are what we call Stay Nimble Thrive, Stay Nimble Launchpad, and Stay Nimble Transition. And for Thrive, you know, we've been working with housing associations across the UK now, and we've been able to evidence over £1 million of social value, where we've helped people to move from you know, roles where they weren't being paid very well and were unsure about what their future might be, into much more sustainable, higher paid work. And as a result of the work we do, essentially what we're doing is we're solving that problem is I don't know what it is I want to do and I don't know where to go to get help. And we're specialising really with people who are kind of 30 years upwards, more in the kind of 40 to 50-year-olds as well. So really looking at the kind of mid-career worker and trying to figure out how do you help enable them to be able to move into new types of roles. The other thing that we've been doing, as I mentioned, is we've been building programs. So this is a great example. We did the Open University at the beginning of the year, which built a cybersecurity program that was distributed through the job centres. And you know, more than 400 people completed that program. We've got a whole bunch of people who are now learning with Cisco and getting their certifications. And we've just had our first kind of 100 people now move into cybersecurity related careers, from either being you know, unemployed or certainly working in kind of part-time work that wasn't fulfilling. Then we move into the transition proposition, which is the work that we've been doing with Impellum now for about a year. So we worked with Guidance Global at the beginning of the year to kind of solve the challenge of the merger between these 3 local authorities and these 3 councils. And so these were you know, kind of chief exec and board level executives who were being affected by the merger. And so one of the really unique things that we did here was create this very flexible model that was focused on the needs of the individual. So rather than kind of putting people through a 3-month program that forced them into workshops and all this other stuff, we allowed people to be able to use the time that we had agreed that they could have in any way that they wish to. And so as a result of that, we're still supporting people now 10 months later, having moved into new types of work, and they're using that career development time to really deeply understand more about some of the things that they're experiencing in work and how they can get more fulfillment from the work that they're doing. And so 80% of the people who came through with us are now into new types of work or doing new things after they were made redundant. And transition as a service for outplacement is now available across the group. You can also find it being advertised with Blue Arrow and Tate, but certainly if you're looking to think about ways in which you can create extra value or new diversification in terms of revenue with your customers, this is a really great option for thinking about what happens next. The last thing I just wanted to mention was this idea that we've been kind of working towards, which is, you know, how do we kind of develop this engaged shared talent pool across the group, with Stay Nimble as being the engagement platform. And so the scenarios we're envisioning here is, you know, people who are coming through to Tate, for example, who aren't successful in applying for particular types of roles, could be referred through to Stay Nimble. We'll help them to identify their pathways and where we find a fit for moving people back towards other types of other brands within the Impellum group. We can help fulfill some of those recruitment needs. So, for example, in this example, somebody's moved from Tate into Stay Nimble. We'd help them to learn a bunch of skills around cloud computing, and as a result of that, there may be a great fit for a whole bunch of roles that Lorien are trying to close. So you can see this idea of trying to connect together the talent ecosystem with Stay Nimble was basically the development aspects of those individuals to help them to be able to move into new types of work. And as a result of that, your acquisition cost goes down, and you know, we're helping you substantially with being able to really mobilize that talent and keep them in the kind of Impellum engaged group. So that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I hope it was helpful and interesting. Please do get in touch. You know, obviously Gemma's running the session today, but you can also reach me directly at my email address if that's helpful. And if you've got any questions, please do let me know. Thanks so much. Cheers.
First of all, hi everyone. I am honestly so chuffed to be here today. I'm Maddie, as Gemma said, and I'm a partnerships manager at Beam. So essentially over the last year, we've built something really, really special in the recruitment space that really, really works. So we've partnered with more than 100 businesses to get more than 500 people experiencing homelessness into work. This event today has happened at such a special time because we're actually preparing our sort of 2022 launch and really trying to identify really high quality, socially minded employers to partner with, really. So yeah, Gemma, if you could just pop to the next slide, that'd be great. Amazing. So I'm sure I don't need to tell any of you guys about these statistics here, in that recruitment is probably facing some of the biggest challenges we've ever faced. The number of open roles is a completely unprecedented high. And interestingly, of those millions of job seekers, so many of them are really prioritising businesses that take social responsibility really seriously, particularly in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, hiring people of colour has been really top on the agenda, which I'm thrilled to see. But it doesn't make your lives easier. Gemma, if you could just pop onto the next one, that'd be great. So again, I'm sure this doesn't come as a surprise in terms of, you know, the retention piece as well. So more than half of adults are considering a career change. So from the perspective of all of you, you know, working across so many industries that have been hit by these kind of twin issues, if you like, I think it's definitely time to start thinking outside of the box. Gemma, if you can just go forward, thank you. So who are we? Well, perhaps some of you have heard of us before, perhaps not, but really we are aiming to and succeeding in helping you build teams and change lives at the same time. Really proud to have been recognised by so many awarding bodies for the work we've done on this in the last year and a half. So maybe you're wondering how that works. If you just click forward, Gemma. Thank you. So essentially we do two main things. We help disadvantaged people back to independence by crowdfunding towards the financial barriers they're facing, and then connecting them with really incredible employment opportunities with really amazing employers. Now, I don't know how many of you have been on our website or are familiar with what we do, but as I mentioned earlier, we are typically helping homeless people. And, you know, when you say homeless, understandably, lots of people do envisage, you know, rough sleepers, people maybe with substance misuse issues, severe mental illness, all of whom are in a really high needs, individuals who are really in desperate need of the support of, you know, fantastic charities that exist out there. What people don't tend to know, and myself included when I joined Beam, is that actually 95% of all of the homeless people in the UK, of which there's nearly 500,000, are actually housed in some way. So they have a roof over their head, perhaps they're sofa surfing or in emergency accommodation, perhaps provided by the council. So, you know, they have showers and clothes, etc., but naturally they're really not set up to thrive. Also, interestingly, a huge proportion of that population are work ready. So you might have heard that term sort of thrown around before, but essentially that means these are people who are really engaged, professional, mentally and physically fit and ready for work, but they're just encountering, you know, some financial barriers and need that extra support to get into work. So some of these barriers are probably quite obvious. You know, the cost of training if they've got a certain sort of dream career in mind, but also things really basic. To be honest, something really stuck in my mind when I first joined this organisation was that if you don't have, you know, £1.50 to get the bus, not even just to work, but actually to an interview, where does that leave you? And I think, you know, that's something I haven't necessarily thought about, and I'm sure a lot of employers haven't necessarily thought about that either. So those are the kind of barriers that we're breaking down. If you could just click forward, please, Gemma, thank you. So we do training, we do development, and we do employment. The training is really widespread. I've given a bit of a visual example there of Rabia, who we helped with a kind of Microsoft Word course, and then secured her role as a receptionist. That was probably one of my proudest moments at Beam, actually. She was one of my members, and we had a very emotional conversation when she started that role as a receptionist. But we also help people with construction qualifications, security, health and social care diplomas, anything really that falls into the sectors of logistics, construction, healthcare, customer service, retail, hospitality, admin. The list goes on really. And whilst we're speaking of some of the Beam beneficiaries, I'd love to kind of introduce you to someone in more detail. So if you just go forward, Gemma. Thank you. So this is Kaimani. He is one of our beneficiaries. He was a care leaver living in emergency accommodation. He actually at one stage was living in a car. without entitlement to benefits. And so our platform helped him to, first of all, write his own story. Everyone gets a chance to do that on our website, but also raise nearly £800 for training and education, through which he gained his CS card and has been able to work full-time as a warehouse operative. He absolutely loves it. You can see him there giggling away. He's always giggling. And yeah, he works at one of our employer partners. So if you just go forward, Gemma, that'd be great. Thank you. So in short, what are we offering businesses? Well, the obvious one is access to a completely untapped, really diverse talent pool. So we have a couple of hundred job-ready individuals actively looking for work and securing work. 64% of those are people of colour. And we don't just obviously help you gain staff, but also retain them. So a statistic I'm really, really proud of is that 80% of our talent actually stay in their roles. And that's really due to a number of things. I think dedication, but also resilience. You know, the people that we work with have faced things that, you know, I certainly can't relate to as a relatively privileged person. And therefore they have a much higher, in my opinion, level of loyalty towards their employers, and a real incredible work ethic. And, you know, we provide job support as well, which I can go into in a minute. And then last but not least, we are massively helping in terms of enhancing your employer brand. I think it's so important for businesses to be able to not just do good and feel good as a result. I certainly feel good offering these services, but also enjoy positive press and really share the work that you're doing. I think, to be honest, it's really an opportunity for employers to be able to lead by example and show other employers within their space what you could be doing to genuinely not just solve all of these recruitment issues we've touched on, but actually change lives. If you could just pop forward, please, Gemma, thank you. So how does it work? So we do the screening for you and we identify the best matches based on what you need. You can then select those candidates and interview them as you see fit. And then our support doesn't end there. So every person you hire, you get 3 months one-to-one career support, and that's from the caseworker they've had since day one. And that comes in a number of ways. It might be financial support before they've received their first paycheck, transport, childcare costs and the like, but also practical and moral support. You know, these people are often quite nervous to start work and excited as well, and I think it's just nice to have an external friendly face that they know so well to, you know, talk them through how's it going, you know, how's your first day, is there anything that you're not quite sure how to navigate, and again, I think that's massively contributed to the retention figure that I shared earlier. So if you're wondering who we work with, Gemma, if you just go forward, you'll hopefully recognise a lot of names here. You know, really household names like DPD, Ocado, Bupa, and smaller ones like Pizza Pilgrims, which is always where I get my pizza in London. So as you can see, we're really working with a variety of sectors, all of whom have so much in common in terms of the recruitment challenges that they're facing. And if you just go forward, Gemma, there's a couple of really lovely testimonials there from some people that I work very closely with, really just proving that.
Oh, Maddie, you still there?
Yep. Did I just freeze?
Yes, you did for a moment, just proving you stopped.
Oh dear, the suspense. Yeah, so as I say, these are some wonderful clients that have worked with us, and you know, the word is just spreading, and I think now more than ever is the time to get on board, hopefully, with what we're doing and start really helping vulnerable people into the workplace. So yeah, if you just go forward onto the next slide, you'll see that the summary really, which is that I really just want to help employers change lives with us. Appreciate this is maybe a bit of a whirlwind if you've not heard of us before, but my contact details are on the page, and I would genuinely love to hear any questions or thoughts at all that might help us work together in the future. So thank you so much for listening, and I really hope that this is not our last conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I think as we had a conversation, Maddie, there's quite a wide spread of training that ultimately you can obtain because of the way in which you do that through crowdfunding. So I think that this goes way beyond perhaps the skill sets that we've discussed already today. But I think given, particularly if I think about Blue Arrow as an example, the struggles that we're having within the logistics and hospitality market and the level of loyalty in those candidates, this is a really untapped market in that the resilient candidates ready to go, committed, strong work ethic, and have just found themselves just like any one of us could off the back of the pandemic in a really difficult situation, and they're ready to go, and we could help them get back on their feet. So I think this is could be a really good partnership to really help and highlight our focus in getting people back into work in every space that we currently recruit in.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And given the size of your business and how many wonderful partners you have, I think the scope of how many people's lives you could touch and thereby change is genuinely enormous. And I can also guarantee that it will make your own lives a lot easier based on what I've seen from recruiters across these spaces. So yeah, really hope something can work.
Thank you, Maddie. I really appreciate it. And if there was any questions that come through following this session, then I'll feed those back through to you, and we'll get the answers back out to everyone in this group. I know most of you will have now completed this interactive poll. I will leave it open for a little longer after the session. It's such a broad topic, and it impacts every one of our brands in a slightly different way to one another in terms of the approach that we need to take. So as a result, this session's been quite high level. There's absolutely a need to drill into this in more detail by brand, location, etc. But we hope that this helps to just inspire you in some way, give you a level of insights to what's going on in the market, and we will continue to do that. But if you haven't provided feedback already, we really build off your feedback. So whatever you can share, be it through the interactive poll or directly to me, please do, and we'll be sure to build something that meets your specific needs as we continue to work in this area. Just before I wrap up, we have recorded the session. I'll share them on the Origin group. If you'd like to know more about any of the suppliers, you have any more specific questions that on reflection you want to ask, please send them through to me. I'll make sure I get the answers, and I'll feed them back to this entire group for you. Also, if today has sparked any ideas of your own, you'll know that we've recently launched Impellem's idea management tool. If you want further information about how you can submit ideas or what's the purpose of that tool, please do take a look at the Knowledge Library or one of my recent posts on Workplace. But thank you all so much for your time, and I wish you a very good rest of the day. Thank you.